All right, it says I'm live. All right. So let's go ahead and open up blueprints. That's 5. We want 4. So how is everyone doing this morning? And that's going to get really annoying if I keep hearing myself. I was doing some testing with some audio, so I have the sound coming back. Routing. There we go. Now I can't hear it. But it looks like you still can. So let's give everyone a couple minutes just to fill in. Oof. That first coffee of the day. Okay, so I've got the first one loaded up here. Blueprint Essentials. There's 3 total. And I don't remember what all of them were. So we had to log in to Unreal Engine online learning to start your course. So Blueprints Essentials Concepts. Let's see, we'll go ahead, we'll copy the link address. Find the right one. I hope so. I've downloaded the files for it already. That's right, every time I try to paste it in. Here, which of course shows up down here. We'll keep this tab on chat. Essentials concept. So we have Blueprint Essentials. Yeah, this looks like I'm still in the same one. Wow, that's right there. Okay. Okay, so how's everyone doing this morning? We ready? I want to make sure I give everyone a chance to download everything before we start. Okay, so let's go ahead. We'll start with the introduction. Now, I generally watch videos at like at least 1.5, so I'm going to speed it up a bit, but we can always pause and back up if we get stuck. All right, something I really haven't done, so it will be new for me. Okay, so we got that done. We got that done. Did everyone download their files that they need? It was 1 point something gigabytes. So depending on your internet connection. Yeah, 1.83. It did give us this. Okay, well, hopefully you can catch up if you haven't. Okay, so we download that. So what is blueprints? So 12 minutes, okay. I assume it's an Unreal 4. I haven't actually checked. I was going to go ahead this morning or on Wednesday. My son signed up for this as well. And we were going to do it Wednesday with him. And then I was going to live stream it today. But I wanted that fresh look. Just out of curiosity, how many people here are programmers? Or consider themselves programmers as opposed to, say, an artist? Someone with, well, how many people are actually here because it's visual scripting and not just because, you know, it's making games or programming? Curious. Mm-hmm. I gotta go ahead and start a Google Doc because I know I'm going to want some notes. Okay. Let me know if the volume's okay. I want to make sure you can hear them. Does anyone know what the license is on these assets? I can go look later. Soft spot. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I can go look later to see what it is. I'm curious. Should I keep these after or what? I know I'm going to keep getting all the words mixed up too between blueprints or prefabs. We'll see if it happens. Oh my god, now I know why it's an hour and a half long. Now, this is the thing that always turned me off about Unreal. Well, one of the things is those once your project starts growing in size, those compile times. You know, you make the slightest tweak. Maybe you just rotated something a few degrees, and you'd have to sit there and wait for like 20 minutes for everything to recompile. And I was just like, nah, I don't have time for this. Let's see. Maybe I was just doing it wrong all along. Okay. All right. Ah. Only I worked with someone. All right, so I assume the next one we finally get started. Oh, quiz one. Oh, it's quiz. All right, nerds, let's go. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger. So I gotta get 100% to pass. Crap, I wasn't paying full attention. I didn't know I was gonna be quizzed. Yes, okay, you ready? Everyone ready? You need to reuse a blueprint multiple times. So class one, okay. But change minor parts of the functionality. What could you do instead of remaking the blueprint each time? Make new actor child. Reuse multiple times. Change model parts. So yeah, making new actors child blueprints. Create blueprints. No. First one. Well, I didn't tell me if I was right or wrong. You've reached the assessment. You need to reuse a blueprint multiple times. We need to make a new character. Oh. Yeah, I have absolutely no idea. That was a horrible testing system. But anyway, we got it correct. So I wonder what happens if you get it wrong. Do you get to just redo the quiz again? Hopefully, when do we actually get to start doing stuff? Oh well. So does everyone have their downloads? Again, if you've got in a little bit later, there's a huge project that we have to download. 1.83 gigabytes. Make sure you got that. Well, let's continue on with the next one. They didn't even show how to load this up. Okay, let's go. So, open project. Did I click on something by mistake? We'll go ahead, click. Oh, did I open up the wrong one? I think I opened up 5 previously. No, it was 4. And I don't want that. Drag and drop. How do I access this one? Okay, so we're going to go to, let's just go to my desktop for now. What's it called? BP? With a different version of Android, opening it will. I wonder what version it's made in. Is there a way to tell? Is it just a different version of 4? Or is it 5? I just assumed it was 5. And these videos aren't new. Or, sorry, 4. We'll see. Ah. Again, the joys of Unreal Engine. It's getting there. Maybe. It's compiling shaders. Well, See what the resource usage is. Quite a bit, I assume. It crashed task manager. Okay, there we go. CPU 100%. GPU 12%. How much RAM are we using? About 21 gigs. Okay. I am going to keep this open, maybe off to the side. Still sitting at 45. Whoa. That's a lot of cores. There we go. I'll leave it open for now while it's doing stuff. So now it's compiling shaders. Let's go. Oh my God, look how many it has to do. Oh. Find out it says it's going to take the class itself. Was it a little over an hour? Let's double that just for having to compile it. I guess while it's doing that, I never even thought about it. How's the stream? It's pegging my CPU. Hopefully it's okay. We can continue on with, well, I don't want to continue on with the videos though for, oh, looks like we're slowing down a bit. All right, we're starting to slow down a bit. So while it's doing the rest, let's start the video. Oh, wait, we can't. Let's actually back that up. We gotta wait for this to finish so we can get in the editor. So how many people here new to Unreal Engine? Or maybe have looked at it, dabbled a bit, and just haven't really done a whole lot? Oof. 74, come on. Is this part that a noise? Oh, maybe it's almost done. Back up to 100%. All right, time to upgrade. All right, it's done. Oh, it's compiling shaders now. New plugins, we'll just dismiss. I'm going to keep this over here on this monitor, just so I can keep an eye on it. So we have a couple here. Oh, it's going to take a while, isn't it? I can at least load it up. Should we wait? Like, it is going down reasonably quick, but it's probably going to be a few minutes. But then again, it's pegging me at 100% here. GPU, not that much. I don't want to get super laggy. Oof. Well, let's just go on. I don't want to sit here and just watch the compiling of shaders. We'll continue on. Let's just take a look at the outdoor scene. Okay. You can do hold down the right. If I remember, WASDA. Oh my. I can't do a whole lot. While it's compiling. Like even moving is just stuttering like crazy. And I'm sure this can't be good on the stream either. Huh. You know, have I ever watched an Unreal Engine stream before? I don't think so. It might be one of those things that if I ever do decide to do Unreal Engine streams, I'm probably gonna have to have a separate computer just for the stream and then one for playing on. Oh wait, shaders are done? They are. All right, let's continue. Now here's the tricky part, getting both of them in there. I want to start in their starting assets, just like they have. So we come down to fundamentals. Okay, let's go through there. Fundamentals, blueprints, essential concepts. All right. Okay, so add new blueprint class. Where was that? Rename. Where was it? Test BP. There's a lot. This is one of the things with visual scripting that's always kind of annoyed me is usually by the time you learn how to do visual scripting, you could have probably just learned how to code. Maybe this will change my mind. You missed a button. I wonder how old these videos are. Well, I assumed this series would be a little bit more interactive. Okay. Hmm. One thing that's always annoyed me about this style is where they cover everything at the beginning as far as the user interface. You sit down, you watch this video. It takes, how long was this? I don't know, 10, 20 minutes. And by the time you get to the end of it, people don't even remember what you started off with. I find it so much better if you just make something. And each time you make something, explore something a little bit different each time. And I find people, that sinks in better when I'm teaching people. Again, I don't know when this is made. I used to do it like this as well when I first started. People just don't remember. And they get bored. But again, I don't know how old this one is. So a quick note to all you youngins out there. I just want to close my note too. I just want to make sure I didn't close this down in case I had to rebuild it. Now his looks so much different. A square with a ball? Mine's just a ball. To the best of my knowledge, I did it right. Oh, he added a static mesh and a point light. Well, now mine looks completely different than his. Well, what's going on now? Let's try it again. Let's go ahead. We'll delete it. We'll make a new one. Blueprint class. Last time we went under here. Does it really matter which one we use? Let's try this one. Oh crap, I already forget what we did here. So busy watching the interface. So we went to here, we went to blueprints, blueprint class, then we came in, and I assume it was just an actor. And we called it new BP. Double click to open. Now we have this view. I want to see if I close it again. And I open it. It opens to this. Open full blueprint editor. Okay. I wonder why it does that. Like I would always want it to open to this, wouldn't I? Okay, but anyway, under here we went ahead and added a static mesh. And let me make this full size. And then underneath that, he did add a point light. I'm just excited that we finally get to do something. There we go. We go ahead, hit save. Yeah, it is Control S. Let's close it. Mine still looks different than his, but I should be able to drag it in now. And it looks like he did something with a static mesh that we have not. So what did I not follow in here? He added something to a static mesh when he added it. Great. Remember that. So we're going to make it a cube. So where's my static mesh? Grab the static mesh, come over here. We said we want a cube. So let me look at these options. So I don't want a camp here. Let's just do the basic. I think that's all we did. Oh, there we go. Now I have the square like he does. Now I can go ahead, drag it in. I don't have the light bulb above it like he did. Oh, he did. We're not going to do that. I'm just happy if I just get it to look like his. So come back in, grab the point light, go to the viewport, move it up. So far, let's forget about the whole compiling thing where we had to wait for, I should have timed it. How long did it take for all of those things to compile before we could really start doing something? And we weren't spiking at 100%. A while, right? But as far as what we've seen so far as the blueprint, it's not bad. Now we should be able to go ahead, drag it in. There we go. And we'll drag it up. I think it's E. Maybe it's just E and 5. Oh no. Insert end. End puts it down. There was a button that would place it on the mesh. And I thought it was end. It's been a while since I've used this, but let's figure it out. All right, let's go. Okay, we can fast forward this part. Okay. Now did his snap to the ground? Because mine didn't. And I'm going to assume we have to put it on, what's the text area? Does it really matter? I think he just got really good with placing it. Now to move around inside of here, for me, I've always found it better to use the WASD key. So I hold down the right mouse button, which allows me to rotate around. And then I use WASD, W-A-S-D, to actually move around. There are other ways to move. I've always liked this one the best. So I think you can hold the left too. Yeah, you can hold down the left mouse button, then I can't rotate. I've always liked holding down the right mouse button, WASD. Okay. Finish this damn video off. Oh, 2.1. Now he didn't say it, but I thought it was Alt. If we hold down Alt, click and drag. Yeah, to duplicate it. And he's at 2.1. Am I missing something? Um, okay, well, whatever. I wish you would explain this before doing it. I don't have to rely on my memory. Blueprints. Oh, well, we'll just continue on. Okay, well, let's try that. Okay, so we select this first one. I didn't see where the light was. Let's see if we can find it. I don't see it. Oh, we're gonna select it. That's why. Light intensity, light color. Cool. Let's grab this one. Same thing. Point light. Let's do increase the rate. Well, let's change it. Let's do RGB. So we'll do green next. And let's play around with some of this. So we can increase or decrease the radius. Control Z to undo. And then Alt. Click, drag it over. Whoops, I just copied the light instead. I wanted to copy the whole thing. Alt. And for this one, whoops, we want to copy the whole blueprint. Now, I'm not getting the whole blueprint. Why is that? Got BP2, BP1, hold down Alt. There we go. I guess because I had just the static mesh selected, I was only getting it. I'm not going to worry too much about the actual position. We can't click on it there. We have to come in here and we need a B. There we go. RGB. Now if we do click on the static mesh, can we access it? I'll deal with the colors later. But anyway, we can see some reflection going on. Great. Everyone good? Everyone knows how to move? How to copy? How to select the proper component? I actually didn't know that. You can create enumeration blueprints. So you could create, well, blueprints is kind of like a big state machine, but ooh, all the sparkies are going off. That's actually really good. I didn't know you could do that. Now, my point of view coming into this is if I'm teaching, say, a middle school class or something like that during the summer, could I teach this to fifth graders? Could I get, I'm not teaching them C++, but could I teach them blueprints and get them to do all the basic stuff that they would need to do inside of blueprints, provided we can get by that whole compiling shaders thing? That's kind of my outlook for this. Can I get to that point with it? Hopefully. Okay. So I'm not going to bother with the text. Let's come over to, see, his is all different. I downloaded the scene they said to get, but does it say what scene he is in? I don't think it really matters. I'm just going to put mine here. So we go ahead, we grab the cube, put it here. I'm going to have to bring it up a bit. Grab a point light. Where are we? Lights. Point light. Drag that. Bring it forward so it's right above them. Close enough. What color should this one be? There we go. Magenta. You're right. Okay. Well, let's do it just in case. What was that under? Basics. So a box trigger right in front of it. Scale was R, yeah. Now I use, just like in Unity, Q, W, E, R. Bigger. And then we'll just move it. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. So if he enters anywhere around there, he'll go on. Okay, so got to select all three. So we got the cube, hold control. Nope. This is the trigger box. Is there a way to select a trigger box without using the hierarchy? Whoops. I think if you hold shift, you move slower. Or not at all. Yeah, I can select it this way. Is there a way to select it in here? I don't think so. I think I'm gonna have to do it this way. So we'll grab that. We'll grab the box and the light. We got all three. We come up to blueprints. Convert selection to blueprint class. It gives us this. We probably select actor, but let's check it out just to make sure. I missed it. Mine looks different than his, but it's content. Convert selection to blueprint class. Okay, so that's where I want to save it. Where we're saving it. Okay, so I'm going to come in here. Assets. Oh, this is the type. I'm not getting what he's doing. See, this, I think, is what he has popped up. I get the other thing that pops up. But we can still get to this from here. Fundamental blueprints. Finished assets is what he wants. Anything inside of there? And he's calling it, spell it right, component based BP. Okay. What the hell is that on top? Why did we get that? But I got something extra. I don't recall adding that. It's there now. When did that get added? What is it? So we got the component base. So we're gonna come in. We got the sphere thing. What did I add? So I got the point light. I've got the cube. I've got the trigger box. Then I got this thing. Did I just delete it? It's inherited. I probably have to do it inside of the blueprint. We'll go to viewport. I don't understand how this even got here. How do you get rid of it? Well, this is annoying. I'm going to try remaking it, see if it pops up again. It's inherited. I can't get rid of it. So I'm going to just get it out of my scene. I can't even delete it out of my scene. So I can right click here and delete. No, I can't even do that. Okay, we'll delete this one and we'll just redo it. Okay. So let's recreate it. So we started off, let's do recently placed because it'll all be in here. Our box, we don't want the box trigger first. Let's do a box of the cube. Bring it up a bit. I'm going to go add that point light. And again. Get it roughly in the center. And then we're going to add a box trigger. And I'll just throw it in front just like you did. Okay. We'll select all three. Blueprints. Convert selections to blueprint class. Again, we get something different than he has, but it is in the same folder, the finished assets. So component, base, BP. Okay. I did not get that little funny thing this time. Anyone see what I did wrong last time? Why did I get the alarm? I guess I'll be able to go back and look and see. Stream. Looks like everything's going good. Okay, so we got to this point. We're in here. Wait a minute. I can dock this instead of having separate windows? Ah. I haven't been impressed with the tutorial so far. Okay. So creating blueprints was an 11-minute video. It probably took us a little bit longer. That's fine. So everyone good there? I think so. Now I could just go ahead and click through all the, we do have the quiz. The gatekeepers. Okay, so 13 minutes. Let's go. Now, I haven't done anything to the audio, but it sounds really weak. Like it's super low bit rate, I guess is what I'm getting at. Maybe. Whew. Taki 707, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. So have you done any Unreal development before? I just better go make this one. I'm going to close this. So we are going to make a new one. I'm just going to put it in here. I'm actually just going to use the first one we did. He has to just get rid of that. He's about to rename it. Let's dock this up here for this blueprint. Go back into the viewport. Save it. And continue. A book. Okay. Oh, that's material. Click on the right one. Bakelit. Where's the book? Book. Okay. We now have a book. Whoa. Is there a way to move that isn't so quick? Alt? I remember there was a way to zip around where we didn't go so fast. It's not Shift or Command or Alt. Anyway, we got our book. Oh, you're eating some snacks? That's fine. Okay. Well, good. I've never done blueprints before, so learning how. So far, I haven't really been impressed with the series. I think it's just old. Just needs to be updated. Okay, let's do that. Gotta do it this way though. He said we could just click it. We can do click. Well, let me rename. Why can't I rename? Okay, F2? No. If we save it. Okay. Well, let's delete it. When in doubt, get rid of it. Won't even let me do that. I don't want to go through all this. That's why I'm watching the video. Or shift plus scroll. Let me try that. As soon as I get out of this. Oh my God, stop. No, still really fast. Now I'm used to holding down the right mouse button and just using WASD. I would like to have some more control over it. I can get to where I need to be, but why can I not change the name? Oh, it's in debug? Oops, I didn't even realize how that happened. Is there a hotkey to start the debug? If there is, so what do we have? We have Control Alt P. I never hit P. Oh well. Thanks. Now I can. I was getting ready to delete it, start over again. So double click it. I can't rename it here. It still looks like I rename up here, but he said you could just click on it to rename. If you hit F2, that doesn't work as well. And he said you could. So on the top right of the viewport, you can change the camera speed. Top right. Not seeing it right now. If it becomes too big of a problem, we'll look at it. But anyway, we're going to call this book SM. And we got it. That's going to be annoying. I want to just be able to hit F2. Oh, now we can do it. So F2 works now. I still can't double click. Okay, we got to double click on the actual word. This doesn't seem to always work. Okay, got it that time. Doesn't seem to always work. I like the F2 option. Now, I assume that works for Mac and Windows. I don't know. I'm on Windows right now. So right click and scroll wheel is for the camera speed apparently. Oh, okay. Yes, it is. Thanks, that's much better. So right click with the scroll wheel, adjust the speed at which your camera moves, and then when I right click in WASD, I move much slower now. Thanks. Let me quickly catch up here. So the 3D viewport, oh, that's where we, okay. So Baba Ganoush, I know nothing about blueprints. Watch the guy build a fall. Okay, yeah. Actually, I seen that video too. My son was looking at it. My son's actually really interested in blueprints. He doesn't really like to code. but he likes to make games. He's very creative. So we got him into like a little bit of 3D modeling, so he can create his own assets, but he really just does not like to code. So I'm hopefully going to be able to, walk him through how to do this. But yeah, I watched the video where the guy made the Fall Guy clone as well. Don't jump off the right. I think that was the big thing. He only had colliders on the left. Okay, let's get through this one. For those that are just showing up now, I tend to have my speeds running really quick. Let me know if it's too fast. I can always slow it down. Also, let me know if the volume's okay that you can hear it. F. Goes on the bottom. Now, I've never done any 2D inside of Unreal Engine. I don't know how good it is for 2D. Has anyone done any 2D before? And if so, how did you like it? I've seen people do 3D and just use an orthographic camera inside of Unreal Engine. But like real sprite stuff, I've never even looked at it in Unreal. Yeah, he has trouble, not necessarily typing, just like the keywords he has trouble grasping. So if he can just drag and drop with blueprints, great. He's only 12. There's no huge rush. I'm, like maybe when he's around, mid-teens, a little bit older, like 17. Kind of hope he gets at least a little bit of programming, a little bit of computer science, more than being able to know how to install and uninstall a game. But yeah, hopefully Blueprints introduces him to that and it helps him get it out. You don't have any volume from the tutorial? Yeah, I still like, so far for 2D, I really like Godot the best so far. That might be something to try out just to see. You can't get any volume. That's weird because it's showing volume on OBS when I play it. Give me just a second here. I'm gonna right here. I'll pump it through there as well, and we'll see how this goes. Oh, now I got to catch up to chat. Never a bad thing. Did you even be done it? So never done it in Unreal Engine, but I heard. Okay, so. Yeah, at least as far as like understanding the concepts with data types and stuff. But again, he's 12. If I'm not going to push him, like if he just wants to sit there and make muddy heights over and over again, that's fine. I'd rather him just create the stuff he wants, even if it's at a slower pace than what I'd like him to go at, as opposed to pushing him and just have him not do anything, right? Or hate it and just not want to do anything. I'd prefer that way. Yeah, math isn't exactly his favorite subject in school right now. I think it has a lot to do with the teacher he has right now. He liked math last year, at least it was okay. He used to like math when he was younger. Since he's gone to middle school, it hasn't been, we'll say, his favorite subject. Okay. So let me know if you can hear this now.
Faces the camera, so it makes it easier to select it as an asset inside the level viewport. Let's go ahead and, for the sake of it, let's just make our book a little bigger. There's our first static mesh blueprint. And again, we could add some additional functionality to this. We could change the material, make it a physics asset. If this was 2 static meshes, we could probably have the book open as the player approaches the book. But for now, we're just using a static mesh as our blueprint. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. We're going to create a skeletal mesh. Now we're going to show you a different way that you can add components now to a blueprint.
Okay, so we're going to make a skeletal mesh. Everyone hear that okay? It's weird because I tested it on recordings and it shows up in the recordings. I don't know why it's not going to the stream. Now, I forget how I have my stream set up as far as the delay goes. Okay. For some reason, only channel 1 pumps through to the stream. Good to know. Well, English is all I know, so. Okay, so we're going to make a skeletal mesh. So we're going to be moving on to another one. So I'm going to get out of here. And I guess just for show. Did I not save it? Where's my book? Oh my God, is it really just that small? F to zoom in. Excuse me, I got some stuff in my throat. Give me a second. All right, still there. Okay, well, we got our book. It's really small. I'm gonna go back into the blueprint. See if I remember how to scale this. Grab that, rotation scale. So let's do it 10 by 10 by 10. I'll save it, close it. There we go. Now I can actually see the book. And if I hit the N key, it puts it right there. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the scene root that gets dropped down to the mesh when you hit the N key. Yeah, so having it just stick out a little bit like that, it drops down to the next mesh, and since I have the book just above it, it should be appear right on top of it. Perfect. Okay, so skeletal next. Okay, so skeletal meshes. Oh, it's not the root that gets dropped down? That's what I'm about to do. Let's open it up. I'm going to take the book, the static mesh. Let's move it way up above the root. We'll save it. We'll come back in. We can see it's way above the book now. Let's hit the N key. Yeah, it is. So the center of the root is what gets dropped down to connect to this mesh. So works the way I think it does. I'm just going to leave it there for now. We'll jump back into skeletal meshes. Oh, so it might use the lowest. Well, we'll try that too. So let's go back in. I'll move it way below the root. Save it. We'll come back in. We'll lift it all the way up. Let's actually move over so we can see it better. Now when I hit E or end, nope. It does appear to be the ball. Again, if we lift it above, save. It's the last time I'm going to play with it, so I'm going to close it. And we still have it selected with the N key. There we go. Okay. So the scene root is what gets centered when you drop it down with end. Perfect. This is 4. I was going to try it in 5. When I use 5, if I have Unreal Engine selected as the default and I have the lighting set to, well, anything but unlit, it like maxes out my GPU. As soon as I click off of the editor, it goes and it drops down to, like, I don't know, 20, 30%. So I don't know. It's still, is 5 even in alpha? Or is it still pre-alpha? I don't remember. I decided to go with 4. Blueprints, from my understanding, between 4 and 5, almost exactly the same. So whatever we learn here, we should be able to bring over to 5. Well, that's why we test. It's really my first, like, I did play around with blueprints slightly, but that was, what, 4 or 5 years ago. Some shader blueprints, that was it. I never cared about this stuff because I would just code it. But it's always good to learn blueprints. Now that I teach teenagers, like I said, if I can teach them how to make games or to express them in an artistic way without having to learn code, but still learning how to like learn the principles of coding, that's a win. So that's weird. I remember it behaving differently as expected. Worked. That's fine. Again, that's just why we test to make sure we understand why it's working. Yeah, I really like what I've seen so far in Unreal Engine 5. Yeah. Again, no bake lights needed, yes, but I'm not sure if it's just Lumens in general. Like I said, when I have it selected, the editor, I get a 100% max GPU usage. Now, I have an old video card in this system. It's a 1080 Ti. I don't know, maybe with something like a 3000 line, it's not as bad. I'm not going to upgrade just because I'm using Unreal Engine, though. I should be fine with the 1080. Not to mention the prices right now. Anyway, back to the video. We're only halfway through.
So I'm going to right click and create a new blueprint class. It's going to be of the actor type again. And we'll call this the skeletal mesh _BP. And I'm going to double click and open this up. And again.
Okay, skeletal mesh BP. So we're going to come back in. I'm just going to put it here. New blueprint class, actor. I'm just going to call mine Skelly BP. Open it up, dock it. There we go.
We are inside the blueprint editor. There's our default scene root. I'm going to dock this at the top here. And you'll notice again that we've opened to the viewport. Whenever you first create a blueprint, it's going to open to the viewport tab. It's expecting you to add components to the blueprint. Once you've opened it or added components, it should open to the event graph where you can start adding your scripted functionality. I just wanted to point that out. Let's go ahead and add some more components here. I'm going to go ahead and click the add button. This time we're adding a skeletal mesh component. Okay, so we're going to add a skeletal mesh component. And I'm going to immediately rename this. We'll just call this character because I know I'm going to be adding a character.
Okay, so we're adding a skeletal mesh. I see some chat. I'll grab that in just a second. And skeletal mesh, which he called character. I was going to call it character. And sorry, I see some chat fly by. But I guess hardware in some years when... Yeah, like if I end up liking Unreal Engine 5, and I think it's something that I want to use on a fairly regular basis, yes, I can upgrade to it. Now, again, for streaming, I don't really need a powerful PC as far as just streaming to YouTube goes. I probably have enough spare parts lying around that I could build a small box. I used to have one, actually. Just a second here. You kind of see it right there. Something, I don't know if it's the motherboard or the CPU. Something died in that one. I can easily swap it out, though, and that used to be my streaming box. And again, just set it up for when I need to stream. And that way the system will mon itself. If it uses 100% of the resources, that's fine because it's not going to affect the stream. When we were compiling shaders here and CPU went to 100%, that was around the 25-minute mark of this live stream. I'm definitely going to go back and see just how laggy it got. Because normally just streaming, I'm only using about 12%. Still something to look at anyway. Almost 2K for, yeah, I know, for 3080. The prices are insane. Like I want an EVGA one. That's who I like. Do they still have a waiting list? I'm not going to jump on it now. I know prices did go up. Products, motherboard. Oh, first one. Let's do. Well, let's take a look at the 3090s first. Out of stock. Can't even get on the waiting list. I don't care about water cooled ones. Okay, let's check out the 3080. Yeah, can't even get on the waiting list anymore. I don't know of any place that has them. Like I'm not going to Amazon. Like I said, prices are just crazy over there. I have not checked in a while. But I'm pretty sure they're still crazy. Yeah. Let's do Prime. Who's selling this one? Screw you. I can get a pre-built with a 3090. I'd have to take a look to see how much this is. 32 gigs of RAM. That's it for that price. Yeah. Wow. That's just depressing. I don't want to look at that.
Like so. Let's go ahead and do one more.
Boom, boom, boom. Fries is closing. New eggs might be next. Yeah. Fries here where I live already closed. Do they still have Fries online? I thought they were gone now. I used to go there and buy a lot of electronics. We have a Best Buy that's close to. I don't really buy my electronics at Best Buy though. Very seldom. I guess our last TV we did. The TV in our living room blew. So we just went out and got a new one. We got that at Best Buy. I don't really buy a whole lot at Best Buy anymore. Like I don't get games there or anything. I guess console games for my son. But even still, those we've been going to Walmart for lately. Yeah, how does Best Buy stay in business? We go in a lot, but I can't think of stuff that we actually buy there. It's convenient, so I get my bottle of water there. I think they're going to need to sell a little bit more than bottled water to stay open, though.
One more thing. We're going to take the skeletal mesh component and we're going to make that the actual root. So instead of having this white sphere as the scene root, we can also make any asset the root as well. So I'm dragging that to the top. And now this is our actual root component. It also gets...
I did not know that. So I guess we should rename it like he has it. Underscore SKM. And we drag and drop it to the top. Now it's the root. Save, jump back in.
Gets rid of that little sprite. Let's go ahead and assign our skeletal mesh. We're going to do a little bit differently than we've done before. If we select the skeletal mesh component, we look in the details panel. Now we have different properties that are related to skeletal mesh components, including the ability to assign our skeletal mesh. Now we could click this drop down and select from all the skeletal meshes that we have in our project, similar to what we've done with our static mesh. But we're just going to show you a different way, just so that you know all the different ways that you can do this. And then you can find the way that is most comfortable for you. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the content browser and we're going to filter for all of the skeletal meshes inside of our project. Looks like we have two. I'm going to select this one here because it looks more like a character. With it selected, if I go back to my blueprint.
Ooh, can we do that? So we'll go in. Content, filters, skeletal mesh. There we go. Now he dragged and dropped this down here. And we select the skeletal character. Let's see where he drags it to.
Now, and the skeletal mesh property, I can click this icon here to use the selected asset from the content.
Ah, I like that. So I can select here. And then use this. You selected. Okay, so there we go. Bob is born. Okay. Whoop. Back it up. Bring it up. I have to admit, I do like the default model that they always give you. I'm so tired of seeing it in games, though, or demos. I'm not sure what online, but they closed the store in Manhattan Beach, California. Yeah, like I said, the store here has been closed. It's been closed for a while. The stream's a bit strange. It's like it speeds the stream itself or just the guy talking. I have the video playing back at 1.5, I think.
Content browser.
Yeah, 1.5. Just when he started off, it got very wordy, and I like to fast forward through that. I learned from actually doing stuff. If I just watched him go over the interface, this is how you do this, this is how you do that, I don't learn crap. I have to sit down and actually do the stuff that he's doing for it to sink in. And I find most people are like that as well. So if he's just going to talk, I'm going to have it at 1.5. But anyway, let's get this one done.
I click this button. This could be useful if you have two windows up and you have something selected in the content browser. You can hop back over and just point directly to it. Another thing that you could do is you could drag a skeletal mesh or any object actually into the components window like so. That will also add components. So another way that you can add components is by dragging and dropping. Again, useful if you have two different windows and content browsers up on one and your blueprints open on another. You can just drag all the components that you need into your blueprint. I'm going to delete that because that's not doing us any good. So I'm going to pop this back up. We have a character in here now. Let's go ahead and change some properties for the skeletal mesh. With it selected over in the details panel, let's go ahead and give it an animation. So we go to the animation section. Under animation mode, we're going to change it from an animation blueprint to just using an animation asset that we assign. Animation.
Okay, so the animation asset. Let's grab that. So we grab him, become an animation, switch it to an animation asset. I'm going to have to get a different stand for my monitor. The font, can I make the text bigger? It's not appear so. It's far enough away and my eyesight's bad enough. To be fair, I'm due for a new prescription. I probably should just go get that. I'm dreading it because I know I'm probably gonna have to get bifocals now. Anyway, so we got the animation asset.
Play, we can choose which one we want. This character has some animations in it, so we're just going to choose the idle here, and our character starts idling.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So he's already got some built in, so we're going to grab aim up, blend, pose. I don't see an idle. What's his called? Third person idle.
Has some animations in it, so we're just going to choose.
Oh, they're down there. I was looking up here. So we have third person idle, third person jump, third person idle run, 2D. All right, well, pick this one. Sure enough, hey, look, he started idling just like he said he would. That's cool.
Idle here, and our character starts idling. We can also set properties like whether it should be looping, if it should be playing at all, initial position, etc. Again, feel free to jump through and look at all the different properties that we have for each of the different components. That's all we're going to do for this blueprint. Short and simple. We're going to compile, save this, close it out. I'm going to clear our field.
Ah, that's how you do it. So you don't just save it, compile it. I don't know if people were noticing when I was coming in here, lighting needs to be rebaked. So I think that has to do with this. Yeah, see the little X? Did I put that in here? All. Is this it? Yeah. Well, it had the arrow saying it was done. I'll play around with it later. Well, actually, no, I should be able to find what blueprint that is. So I've got it selected. It's a component-based one, which is this one. Why do I have a little X over the light? Point light 7. Now what happens if I take the cube, make it the base? Oh, it won't let me. There we go. Now it does. That's a shared root. I'll play around with it later. I don't know why. Can't do what I want to do with it. But that's fine. I want to get this one done.
Filters, and go back to our folder with our blueprints in it. And let's go ahead and just drag that in. Now what we should see is once we play inside the editor here, our character is just kind of idling. Now we could add some additional blueprint script.
Okay, well, it should be vibing, so we'll save it, jump back in. We're going to come over here to the next one. We're going to grab that player. I think I put in finished assets. No. All right. And then we hit play. And yep, he's vibing. Smaller than I thought he'd be. Okay. Okay. Next.
To this so that when the player approaches, maybe the character turns and waves at us or does whatever we want. All of that can be done through blueprint script. But for now, we have a simple blueprint with a skeletal mesh component that is animating. Take that a step further. If we look over here, we're using the same skeletal mesh, still animating in an idle position. However, we've added some additional components to this to give it a little bit more functionality. And that's the power of blueprint. So as I approach this character, you're going to see the light comes on above his head. The character kind of starts rotating around. Now, this could be useful if you're an animator and you want to look at different animations for a character. We could set our character up on a turntable style setup like this, which allows us to kind of walk around the character and look at the character from different angles as it's rotating around. If we move away, the character stops and the light goes off. So we've done this through Blueprint. And we could extend this even further. We could give our artist friends the ability to switch animations that they're viewing inside the details panel, speed up or slow down the rotation rate, pause it, etc. Step through animations, just kind of view animations for our characters. Again, all doable through the Blueprint visual scripting system. Let's actually take a look at this blueprint. So we can select it in the level here. We can go to Edit Blueprint, or we can right click on it and choose Edit as well. That'll bring up the actual blueprint asset. Now again, brought us to the event graph because we already have components and we've already actually done some script here. But I'm going to hop to the viewport just to show you what components we have. We have the skeletal mesh like we had before. We also have a trigger, which is a sphere collision, which we've named trigger, a point light, and we also have this rotating movement component.
Okay, so I can do the trigger part. I already know how to do that. So we'll jump in. I'm going to grab him. We're going to add some components. We need to add a... where's trigger? Well, we need a point light. That should be up here. There's the point light. I thought I had a different menu here last time. And I'm just going to leave it called point light, but we do have to move it. About here. And then with him selected, let's go ahead. We'll add that trigger. I can't remember, was it a box? No, it was... What was it again? I guess it was a sphere collision. Excuse me. We do have to make it bigger. Boom. Okay. And I am going to move that up just a bit, right about here. And we're going to call this trigger. So inside of Unreal Engine, when you're naming your components, the naming convention, do you start with a capital? What is the naming convention nowadays for it? It looks like it is. Well, I'm going to keep doing it. Now, this rotate movement was something he wrote, so we'll have to see how to do that. Hopefully he shows us.
Now, one of the other things that I wanted to show you that I forgot to show you in the last setup is the ability to establish parent-child relationships with components. So here we have our trigger, here we have our point light. If we were to take our point light and left-click and drag it and drop it on top of the trigger, it now becomes a child of the trigger. So whenever we move the actual trigger, the light will move with it. So this is useful if you want to establish parent-child relationships. You can do that just by dragging and dropping. You can undo that just by dragging it off of its parent like so. Just wanted to point that out. So essentially what we're doing with this blueprint is we have a trigger, and what we're saying is when the player enters this volume, take this rotating movement component, set the rotation rate to something like 20 so that our character starts spinning, set it back to 0 so that it doesn't spin. And we're also turning the light on and off as well. So how's this actually working? If we look at the trigger and we go over to the details panel and we scroll down below all the different properties that we can change for that trigger, we have what we call events. So events will fire off blueprint script. And if we look, we have two options that we've already enabled called on component begin overlap and on end overlap. So essentially when we begin overlapping this volume, do some script. When we end overlapping, do some other script. And we can get to those by clicking the view button, which...
So I'm going to grab trigger. Can we move that up? No. Oh, we drag and drop it. Nope. No, I don't want it as a child. We'll play around with that later. So we'll come down to here. We have begin overlap and end overlap. So I can hit plus. And I can come back down here, hit plus again. That gets me these two events added to my graph. And how do you move in there? So it's right click to move. I thought it would be middle mouse button. That's fine. I can get used to that. So right mouse button to move around.
If we go to the event graph, it'll take us right to that node. And here is the script for that blueprint. It's a very simple script. Essentially, as we mentioned, overlapping the volume, setting the rotation rate to 20, turning the visibility of the point light to on, and when we end, setting it back to 0, and turning off the light. And that's our simple script. Now, if we look over in the My Blueprint panel and expand the components section, all of the components that we've added are going to be available from the components window. And this gives you the ability to do things like add events for components. So for our rotating movement, we can add some different events. For our point light, we can add...
I'm hoping he recreates it and not just like, okay, here's the script. Try to figure it out and add it yourself. That'd be horrible. This is an intro.
Some events, trigger, and our mannequin. Let's go ahead and file and save this and close it out. And that is a blueprint with multiple components. We've learned that there are different types.
Oh my God. Okay, well, let's see if we can recreate it. So I have a set 2D, no, a whole bunch of sets. Set owner. I'm not going to read through that and try to figure it out. Hopefully they explain it a little bit later on. But that was horrible. We'll just throw this here and show you how it works, but not show you how to create it.
And this gives you the ability to do things like add events for components. So for our rotating movement, we can add some different events. For our point light, we can add some events, trigger, and our mannequin. Let's go ahead and file and save this and close it out. And that is a blueprint with multiple components. We've learned that there are different types of components and that we can add them to our blueprints. We also ran through the different ways in which you can add components to blueprints, adjusted some of the different properties, and talked about how you can use events to fire off some blueprint script. If you need to, take some time and continue looking at the different types of components available and their properties, as having a solid understanding of how components work is a key concept in blueprint visual scripting.
Okay. Looks like the next one we're going to be doing graphs. So hopefully they do that for us. I think it's the same one. So we've been going for an hour and 40 minutes and we've hardly covered anything. This is going to take a long time to get through them all. I'm going to quickly go make another tea and use the bathroom. If you've got to do that, now would probably be a good time to do that as well. I'm going to leave him up. Actually, he's in scene. I'll leave him up. I'm going to take a 2-minute break, go to the bathroom, make another tea. I'll be right back. Nothing like moving a chair and getting it run over your foot. All right. Do a little standing. Okay. Back to it. So this one's just under 15 as well. We're actually not that far off. Let's see how far we get with this one.
In this video, we'll take a look at the different types of blueprint graphs that you'll be working with and what they are used for. We'll also show you the basics of navigating those graphs so you feel more comfortable moving around within the blueprint editor. So here we are inside of the editor, and we have two stalls here with two different blueprints. One of them uses the construction script and the other uses the event graph. And we're going to take a look at both of those more in depth here. So let's look at the first one here. They're both spotlights, but they're slightly different. Let's select this first one here. Inside of the viewport, you can see over in the details panel that we have all kinds of different components that are being used to make up this spotlight. So we have the different mesh pieces. We also have a light that is being used to project light into the actual environment. Below all of that, though, we have a section called default, and we have some properties in here that we can adjust. These allow us to change how this light actually functions. So here we're adjusting the yaw, adjusting the pitch. Here we're adjusting the light radius, and we can change the color if we wanted to. Turn it off.
Now, when they have stuff like yaw and pitch, how many people would just prefer like X rotation, Y rotation, Z rotation? Or do you prefer like yaw pitch?
Completely. And we can adjust the light beam, which is like the light shaft that you see there. We can adjust the opacity of that. How is this working? If we select this and we go to the Edit Blueprint button and open in the Blueprint Editor, it's going to open up to the event graph. If it doesn't, go ahead and click the Event Graph tab. Because I wanted to take a moment to describe some of the methods that you'll be using for navigating your graphs before we break down the construction script. Inside of our graph here, it's completely empty. You can see at the top it says right-click to create new nodes, but we're going to right-click and hold in the graph. And as you move your mouse button, that's going to allow you to drag and kind of move around the graph here. So this is going to be the way that you move around your graph. If you use the left mouse button and hold, what you're going to get is a selection box as you drag. So if you have a bunch of nodes in your graph and you want to select them all, you can make a selection box around them and then move them wherever you want. That's how you're going to be doing selecting. If you mouse wheel down, that's going to zoom out so you can get a wider view of your node network. Mouse wheel up will zoom in. It will stop at a 1-to-1 ratio here. So if you wanted to zoom in even further, you can hold Control and mouse wheel up. That's going to allow you to zoom in past that 1-to-1 ratio. And that's really the basics of navigating the graph. You can feel free to get comfortable with navigating around, making selections, zooming in and out. But what I want to do now is actually add a node and talk about connecting nodes as well. So right-click to add new nodes. If I right-click.
Okay, so I'm going to go make one with just a light in it, just so we can follow along. So I'm just going to do it in here, right-click. I'm going to make a blueprint class. Let's do an actor. I'm just going to call it, what video is this? I don't know. I'm just going to call it point light underscore BP. Open that up. The only thing I'm going to add is a point light. Actually, spotlight. I'll have to rename it. I'm not that worried. So spotlight. I'm going to rotate that down a bit. Rotation. That should be. I want to rotate. Really? Whoops. It's saying that's Y pointing this way. Oh, that's right. X, Z is up. I thought it would be pointing along Y, but anyway. Let's grab it. Come on. Why is it not rotating? Not playing. So is he? Okay, well, it wasn't working before, but there we go. And we'll come back into the event graph. And here's where we are going to start with the video.
Click, we're going to get the context menu. Okay, so the context menu is going to right click to add new nodes. If I right click, we're going to get the context menu. Okay, so the context menu is going to give you contextual suggestions for nodes that you can add to your graph based on the type of blueprint
Android permission
and the things that you have selected in your blueprint. So for example, if I were to go to the spotlight here and right click, now we're going to get the ability to call functions on the spotlight. If I select the mesh, now we can call events for the mesh, as well as all the other nodes that we can add as well. If we right click in the graph again, there is the ability to turn off context sensitivity, which you can check this option here or uncheck it to turn it off. That's going to give you all the nodes that you can add. Now you do need to be a little bit careful with this based on the type of class that you are working in. Some of the nodes that you try to add may or may not work. So we're inside of an actor class right now. If you try to do maybe some networking stuff or some other types of functionality that isn't relevant to actors, then you may get some errors. So as a best practice, I recommend that you keep this on until you're a little bit more familiar with using Blueprint. So let's go ahead and actually add our first node. We're right click, we're in the context menu. We're going to add an event. So I'm going to click this button to expand some additional options. And we're going to add the event begin play. So event when.
So with nothing selected, event begin play. Don't we get that automatically? Yeah. So why do I start with the 3 basic ones and he doesn't? I don't know. I've already got it though.
Play begins for this actor. Go ahead and add that. Once we add that, it's going to give us a node inside the graph here, our first node, which we can select it by holding it and left mouse button dragging around where we want to move it. We can deselect it by clicking off of it as well. Now it's got 2 pins on it. I don't really want you to worry about the delegates right now. We don't need to be too concerned with those. All we need to be concerned with is this pin here, which is the X.
This node is disabled and will not be called drag off. Okay, so we got to actually start making stuff before it enables itself. Okay. So I assume it's just a build thing. This is probably, the video itself was made for a much older version. I don't know. Is there a way to tell what version he's running? I don't see anything specific.
Executable. Now events are what kick off Blueprint script. Whatever we have connected to this wire will get executed. Now we're creating wires by left clicking and dragging off of this pin. And when we do so, when we release, it gives us the ability to add a node to connect to this automatically. So we can search through this list and add different kinds of nodes. For the purposes of testing, I'm just going to search for a node called print string. This is a utility node. And essentially what it does is it prints a string to the log and optionally to the screen. So we use this quite a bit for debugging and testing our blueprints. I'm going to click print screen to add it.
Okay, let's do it. Let's go. Oops. And then we want print string, was it? Ooh. Okay. And let's zoom in a bit. All right, we got our string.
And you can see it's already been connected. Now, if for some reason you want to disconnect this, you can hold the Alt button and left click on either executable wire that'll break the connection, at which point you can reconnect it by left clicking and dragging and making the connection like so. Now we could change the string, what we want it to print to the screen here. You'll notice that it has an out executable wire, so we could add something to the end of this.
So it just prints hello, that's fine.
If we wanted to. But for now, we're going to leave it just like this. This is our simple first Blueprint script here. I'm going to compile and save this. Close it out.
Compile and save it. I have to put it into my scene. I'm going to get rid of the skeletal. Well, I'm not going to get rid of it. We'll just close it for now. And we need to put this, let's rename this. No longer a point light. It's a spotlight. And I'm going to come over here to this one. And I didn't give it a mesh. Let's rotate this. Let's change its color. And let's do that like that cyan color. All right. And honestly, I'm in global space for movement. How do I switch to local? There we go. Just click the box. All right, right about there is good enough. And And on my actor blueprint, is there a way just to turn this off? So the only light is this one? I could just turn the intensity down. We'll just leave it for now. Maybe change the color of this one so we can see it a bit better. There we go. But I'm getting distracted. Let's go.
Come back to the level editor here. When we play in the editor, we should see in the upper left here the text hello. So let's go ahead and play.
Okay, do we get hello? Lighting needs to be rebaked. 10 units worth. Is there a way to just do that automatically? I don't remember adding 3 books here. Oh, it's because I updated the one. Get rid of those. And I didn't see hello. Oh, there we go. Okay, got our hello.
And there it is in the upper left. It says hello. We've done our first bit of blueprint visual scripting. I'm going to go back to this blueprint, open it up and edit it. I'm just going to delete this because that was just for testing and getting our feet wet with making connections and adding nodes. Let's hop over to the construction script and take a look at a node network that has already been set up that gives us the ability to customize this particular spotlight.
How come I get the feeling mine's not going to be set up? Yeah. I'm not deleting mine. I'm going to keep mine.
And the reason that we can do that customization is that we have what we call variables that allows the user to define the property value of these variables that we set up. So you can see we have yaw, pitch, all those variables that are displayed inside of the details panel here that we can tune and tweak the way that this light functions. And the reason that we can do that is we've set these variables to be publicly editable. Now, publicly editable, you can make them publicly editable or not by clicking this eye icon here. So say, for example, we don't want the users to be able to turn the light off. We can turn that button off. You'll see that the construction script actually fires when we make changes. That's one thing that is important to note with the construction script is that it fires whenever you make changes inside of the editor. It also fires once at runtime. So as soon as you start your game, the construction script will fire again as well. Let's turn this off. You can see it fires. We compile and we go to the level editor. Now in the details panel, we don't have the ability to actually turn this off. So this is a way to limit customization on some of your blueprints. If you are setting up tools for level designers or artists, even for yourself,
I like that.
You can enable
it's definitely something that's needed.
Variables that are publicly editable or not inside of the My Blueprint panel here. Take a look at the construction script here, how things are working. Don't be alarmed if you don't know what some of these nodes do. Looks like whoever set up this blueprint did a good job of commenting our nodes network here. You can add comments to any block of script inside of your blueprint, and it's very handy for allowing people to come into your blueprint and see kind of what's going on from a high level without really having to understand what each node is doing. Adding comments can be done just by making a selection box and hitting the C key will allow you to add a comment. I put a comment inside of a comment, which probably wasn't a good idea. We don't need that. Here we have a section of nodes that allow us to live.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Was that C key? I was looking at
selection
chat.
box and hitting the C key will allow you to add.
Well, now to be fair, I don't have one. I can't hit the C key though, and it allows me to add one.
Add a comment. I put a comment inside of a comment, which probably wasn't a good idea. We don't need that. Here we have.
That's something I hadn't even thought about with visual scripting. Was how do you comment so people know exactly what each piece does? Because when you see other tutorials, so let's say on YouTube, they always have just like, when I look at it, this spaghetti mess of nodes. Being able to break it up and comment it, kind of a good thing, right?
A section of nodes that allow us to align pitch and yaw values to the spotlight meshes. If the turned off variable is on, then we're going to turn the light off. If it's not on, then we're going to set the material for the actual spotlight, set up the color, as well as the light beam. So that's essentially how the construction script is being used. So let's go ahead and close this out. Now you could use the construction script to do other things, like if you have a fence, for example, and you want to dynamically add additional pieces to that fence, kind of spawning in or adding additional static meshes, you could set that up. An example of that is actually inside of our content example projects if you want to take a look at that. But again, the construction script can be used to create prefabs that you can tune and tweak inside of the editor. The next example will allow us to look at how the event graph works. I'm actually going to back up a little bit here and play in the editor to just demonstrate this. So it looks very similar to the light that we had before, except this particular blueprint uses the event graph to determine whenever the player is near the spotlight, and then it actually tracks us and follows us around as well. We're using the event graph to do this. Let's take a look at how that's working.
What if they'll
We still
show
have our
it?
customizable properties in here that we can set up. If we go to edit this, we go to the blueprint editor here, and we take a look at the construction script. It's very similar to the one that we had before. But on the event graph, we have quite a bit more script that defines the logic of how that light knows when we are in range and what to do and how to manipulate the camera to actually follow the player. So there's all kinds of script in here. We're not going to go through this in detail, but just know that the event graph is used at runtime to update scripts.
I get the feeling he's not going to go through it at all.
Information that can be used to update your blueprint scripts, essentially. What I want to do is talk about another type of graph that you may encounter or can use at your disposal when working with blueprints. The first of those, let's go ahead and select all of these nodes here. If we right-click on a node, we have the ability to create some organizational graphs. And what I mean by that is, let's go to collapse to function first. We have all these nodes here, and if we select collapse to function, what it's going to do is populate it into a single node for us. So if I Control Z to undo that, it's just a way of organizing things for you. So instead of having all this node network, you could take this particular one and right-click on it and collapse to function. So now it's just a single function. And it actually adds it over in the function section here, which you could rename this to something else a little bit more descriptive, which this determines whether the player is in range or not. So I would probably call this is in range or something like that. And if we go back to the event graph, now we have one node that does all of that for us. So it's very similar to what we had before. It's just collapsed into a little function here.
Definitely cleans things up.
Let's take this section down here maybe. All of this information down here, all it really does is determine the rotation values to use for the spotlight mesh. So it's basically getting values for us to determine the rotation. So if I select all of this and I right-click on it and I collapse it to a macro, similar to what it did with the function, it collapses it down to an individual node. Now you notice this one has no inputs, whereas our function actually has an input. That's one of the advantages to macros. They don't necessarily need to have an input coming into it. This particular function is just getting information for us and then spitting it out as one of these two values, at which point I would probably rename these as well to something a little bit more descriptive. So that's a macro. Again, that will add it over in the My Blueprint panel, which we could rename this as well, which we could say get rotation values or something like that.
So for those that are used to Unreal Engine, would you say that a macro is just a function that doesn't need input? That's how I'm looking at it. It didn't collapse the comment where the other one did as well.
As always, we could double click and open that graph like so for a function, or double click and open this graph as well. The last one that we'll talk about is collapsing nodes. So if I select all of these nodes here and I right click and I collapse these nodes, it's going to collapse them down into a collapsed graph, which we can give this a name. We'll just say it smoothly rotates spotlight. We can double click, open it up, and there's all of the blueprint nodes that we had before. So if we go back to our event graph, well, you can see how we can organize our graphs a little bit tidier by using these different graphs. The advantages to some of these, the function, this is something that you can call from an external blueprint because it's a function. You can tap into this blueprint and call this function. As with a macro, the macro is more of a utility that you can use within this particular blueprint. You're not necessarily going to be calling it from external blueprints unless you set up a blueprint macro library, but again, that's outside the scope of this particular project. Collapse graphs is purely a way of condensing a particular graph. The good thing about the function as well too is that you can take the function and add it to different sections. So if you have something that you're doing multiple times, you can make a function for it and then just call that multiple times wherever you need to inside of your graph. The same thing with macros. Macros can do that as well. Collapse graphs, you cannot do that with.
Okay, so collapse graph is just purely just take a block of spaghetti code and condense it down.
Let's go ahead and close this back out. We talked about construction script and event graphs. Now that we've covered how to move around the blueprint editor graphs and the different types of graphs that you'll be using, you should have a better understanding of what each graph can be used for. And if you need to, you may want to take some additional time exploring the graphs and practice navigating before moving on.
All right, I'm just going to get my mat here just a sec. Okay, quiz time. And the speed we're going, I only get through one video today, or one section. Okay, so I have to answer them all, pass 100, no time limit. So go ahead, we'll start it. Okay, designers ask you to be able to modify a blueprint actor's properties and see the changes appear in editor. Where would you make these properties updated within the blueprint? So not the event graph. I'm gonna have to look at it. Not the constructor. It's down here. What's this called? This is where you make them visible. Well, I think it's this one. Well, there's 3 questions. So you don't do it in the event graph. Let me just read it. A designer has asked you to be able to modify a blueprint's actor's property and see the changes appear in editor. Okay. I'm going to say there. Oh, there are 2 default graphs in every blueprint. One runs at runtime and the other runs when the blueprint is updated. Well, let me go back. Okay. Oh, previous. Nope. Next. Okay, you must answer each. Okay. If you want to modify a blueprint, so I guess I was just thinking of something different. So the correct answer should have been the construction one then, if I understand the way they were talking about it. If you want to modify blueprint variables within the editor, what type of variable do they need to? So you want to modify it, so it's got to be public. You need to add a trigger volume to your scene. Within a blueprint actor, the trigger then becomes a blump component. All right, we got it. It's cool that they got a test system. I don't really like the way it works, so it seems kind of wonky. 10 minutes. Another quiz, additional resources. Let's at least get through this whole first one. How's everyone doing? Everyone still following along okay? And then maybe later on we'll play around with making something. Trying to do something with what we've learned so far. So far, we've been streaming for what? Say 2 hours. There's probably been about 45 minutes worth of video. I think a lot of that could have been condensed down to maybe 10 minutes. Anyway. Let's continue.
Blueprint is used throughout Unreal Engine 4, and in this video, we'll take a look at some of the different types of blueprints you'll be working with in your own projects. So here we are inside of the editor, and we have several different stands with all kinds of different blueprints that we're going to be looking at. Starting with our first stand here, 5.1, and the level blueprint. So essentially what we have is, if we play in the editor here, we have the ability to walk over and stand on this button, turning on these gears, and the light on the button comes on as soon as we step off, turns off, and so do the gears. So we've set this up inside of the level blueprint. So if we escape out of this play session here, to get to the level blueprint, as long as we're in the main editor viewport, across the top, our main toolbar, we can go to the blueprints button, and about midway down, we have the ability to open the level.
Okay, let's do that. I'm going to close this. Blueprints. Open level blueprints. I'm not seeing anything. Actually, I'm going to dock it just to... Let's see what he has.
Blueprint. Now, the level blueprint is a level-specific graph that you can use to script level-specific functionality. We'll talk more about this in a moment. But for now, let's open the level blueprint.
Damn it, he's got stuff in his. Am I just not in the right area? It looks like it. If we back his video up. Like we have the outside one. There's this little light thing. This is how we build it. Well, the parts we use to build it. This is the one with the doors. Oh no, it's compiling. Okay. Okay, apparently this whole time I've been in the wrong one. But they didn't tell us at the beginning. Why can I not move? This is a keyboard thing. Okay. I want to try this out, so I'm going to hit play. We're going to move to it. Whoops. Mine's not working. Okay, well, stop. Let's figure it out. Blueprints. Open level blueprints. Now we've got stuff.
We'll talk more about this in a moment. But for now, let's open the level blueprint. Inside the level blueprint, we have some script that's already been defined and being used to set up some of the other demo stations in this particular project. One of the things that you may notice about the level blueprint is that it doesn't have a components window, as we cannot add components to the level blueprint. Therefore, it doesn't have a viewport tab either. All it has is the event graph that we can use to script level-specific functionality. And what I mean by level-specific functionality is that anything that we do inside of this particular graph is going to be bound to the level that we do it in. So if we create a new level, we'll have a brand new level blueprint that will be completely empty. Let's take a look at the script that's being used to turn on our button. So here is our 5.1 script that we've commented out. We have a trigger box.
Again, let me take a look at mine. We're at 5.1.
Box that is being used to determine when we overlap it. As soon as we do, turn on the button and also turn on the gears. As soon as we leave the volume of the trigger box, turn off the button and turn off the gears. And that's being done here inside of the level blueprint. So let's hop over to the other stand, the 5.2 stand, which is an actor blueprint, which looks very similar to the 5.1 stand. In fact, if we play inside the editor, it's going to do the exact same thing. We could step on the button, the gears turn on, and that turns off, just as we'd expect. But we've done this as an actor class blueprint. This may be a case where if you are doing something that you want to reuse in your level or use in multiple levels, you may want to use an actor class blueprint as it's more modular. Anything that we do inside of an actor class blueprint will be bound inside of the actor class that we do it in. What I mean by that is select our blueprint here and we open it up. Here is all the script that is being used to determine how to turn on the gears and turn on the button. It's all done inside of this actual blueprint. We have the components window where we can add all the different bits and pieces that make up the blueprint, such as the button and the trigger box and the gears, etc. And that's all being done inside of this blueprint. And what's handy about that is that we can select this blueprint. We can drag out another copy of it, like so, making sure that it is flat on the ground, something like this. And if we play, we can walk over this button and those gears will turn on. We can just jump off of that and come onto this one and those will turn on. That's one of the benefits to using actor class blueprints, is that we can quickly and easily make duplicate versions of this inside of our level, and the scripted functionality would just work. If we were to do that inside of the level blueprint, try to copy this stuff out, we would need to, each time inside the level blueprint, provide that scripted functionality. And not only that, when we switch levels, we would lose all that functionality. So the level blueprint is primarily for level-specific things that you need to do, kicking off initial script potentially, but you're probably going to want to stick with actor class blueprints because it's a little bit more flexible and modular in that regard. So I'm going to hop over to the 5.3 stand, and we're going to take a look at animation blueprints now. If I play in the editor here, and I walk over to this button, we now take control of a character that we can actually walk around with and jump and do all kinds of fun stuff with.
Well, you can't show me that and not expect me to go play with it. So 5.3, whoop, wrong key. Why is mine not working? Oh crap, what'd I do? How do I switch views? Okay, that's 4. Come on. Might have to switch keyboards here real quick. This one's not connecting. Let me grab another keyboard real quick. I'll be right back. Luckily I've got spares. Oh, how do I trip over a chair? Time for old clicky. Turn it off right there. This should reach the area I've put my keyboard at now, or sorry, my computer at now. Downside is I got a big cable running across my desk. How am I going to plug this in? I'll just come across the front here, and that is not going to reach. If I pull this forward, give me a second, I gotta get underneath. I need a light. Be right back. Oh man, I need a vacuum over here. Yeah, I touched my phone, it's moving. Wow, I got one spot left. Oh, nope. There we go. So I'm gonna assume it's on. Lights are on. There we go. So let's hit play. Why is it not working? This is where we take control of the third person. Okay, yeah. There's something I'm missing. What is it? Let's try making a build of it. How long is this going to take? Is there a special way I'm supposed to move to get this to activate?
As soon as I go back over the button.
Oh, that's the copy it made. Was it in there, the copy? Like, where'd, I don't see a builds folder. Well, that's annoying. It never told me how to actually activate. I assumed as I moved in, it would just work. I'm gonna have to do a separate Google outside of a tutorial to figure out how to get the tutorial, something that's happening inside of the tutorial to work. I get to pick where it goes. I don't know what the build is though. I don't think I put it in the original. There's my save. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we do have an extra folder here. One, two, three, four. So config, content, intermediate. So we have, it's just the cache. Well, I built. I don't know where the build went, so I can't even try the build. Try using the standalone mode. Ah, okay. Take a look at that. Do you know where the builds go? Standalone game mode. We'll save it. See, this is not what he's going into, though. Okay. There we go. Yep, that worked. I don't want to have to go into the standalone mode all the time. It doesn't look like he has to. Whoops. Then when you run back over that button, apparently it just crashes. How do you get out of that? So, or view port mode. Is that under here? It never said, so I just assumed he just kept hitting the play button, so I hit the play button. So originally we had this, so we could stop it. I don't know. Well, we got the simulated mode to try it out. I'm going to keep it in that one. Sorry, standalone mode. The first option. Whoops. And how do you get out of this? Is there a key you got to press? I know I can control Alt to get out of it. I just assumed there was another one. So the first option. Select a viewport. Oh, okay. So is this what he's in the whole time? Hopefully it doesn't make me run to the first spot all the time. If so, we'll have to move that. So this should work. Okay, yeah, it works. The escape gets you out of it. Okay. So he has that on, and I guess You're just supposed to, you do have to run all the way to the start each time. I'm not going to worry about moving it just yet. We'll see what goes on. Thanks. See, we're all learning. Right there. So almost halfway through this one. Let's keep going.
We lose control, and there's our character just standing there. Let's take a look at...
Crap.
We lose control, and there's stuff with. As soon as I go back over the button, we lose control, and there's our character just standing there. Let's take a look at an animation blueprint. So to do that, I'm going to select the character in the viewport here, and we're going to go to the details panel under animation class. We're going to browse to the animation blueprint that we are currently using. I'm going to click this icon here. It'll take me to the animation blueprint. As soon as I double click to open it up, it's going to look a little bit different. Let's go ahead and make sure that we are on the event graph, and let's maximize this so we can see it as well. It's a little bit different. This particular asset is used in the aid of creating animation logic for characters, whether you're controlling them or not. You could do that inside of an animation blueprint. The event graph of an animation blueprint is used to define the moment-to-moment variables, things that can change while your application is running. And once you update those variables, those can in turn be used to drive which animation pose your character would be in. Defining the animation poses is done on the anim graph. So if we open that up, here's our anim graph, and the anim graph has all kinds of different stuff in it that allows you to blend between different animations. Here we have the ability to set up a state machine, so we can be in different states, so we can be idling or running, jumping, etc. The anim graph basically allows you to define your moment-to-moment final animation pose, while the event graph, similar to an actor class blueprint, allows you to update your moment-to-moment variables at runtime. So I'm going to close this out, and we're going to move on to the next stand, which is 5.4. This is for creating UI elements in your project. So if I play in the editor here, as soon as we walk over to the button and stand on it, we have a little bit of a UI pop up.
So what does UMG stand for?
In the upper left-hand corner of our screen, which says health and energy, and they look like they're depleting, so I better get off that button. And as soon as we step back on, it resets. This uses what we call Unreal Motion graphics inside of UE4 and what's called a widget blueprint. So let's take a look at what that looks like. To do that, we're going to have to actually go back to the level blueprint.
And I just want to test to see if mine works just like this. Oh my god, I gotta run all the way to the start. Is there a faster way? And I assume the next one's pickups. Oh my. And room 5. Okay. So when we step on it, what happens if we let it go? Actually, let's do pickups. Okay, yeah, so we got pickups. Do they respawn? I want to see what happens if you let it run out. Probably nothing. Okay. They just run out. And the next one's pickups. We already looked at that, so we don't have to go to that. What do we have for 6? Physics, maybe? Okay. It kept me in 5 after I escaped. It didn't bring me all the way to the start. Okay, well, anyway.
Because I used the level blueprint to set this up for us. I'm going to open the level blueprint first. We scroll up here. We have at the begin play, it's doing some stuff to store the player character's transform for the playable character. But to the right of that, we are creating a HUD. So if I click this browse icon, it should take us to it in the content browser. So let's go ahead and open that up. And this is a widget blueprint. So it looks a little bit different than some of the other blueprints we've been working with. It has a graph, which is called an event graph, which is very similar to...
Oh, maybe I'm just really dense. But if they already have everything pre-made and they're just clicking through and they don't actually show you how to make it, I feel like I'm not really learning because I don't know how to make this. I'm just looking at how it works, right? Is that just me? Or is that for everyone else that's watching? Really bad for a learning series.
Some of the other event graphs that we've worked in, right-clicking and holding will allow you to drag around in the viewport, as we've done before. But you can see it's a widget blueprint. So there's UI-specific things that we could do inside of this graph. Not to mention that it doesn't have a components panel or components window. It doesn't have a viewport. It has a designer tab. So this is where we can lay out visually how we want our UI elements to appear inside of our project. And we could do all kinds of things like doing animation for those, all kinds of different UI elements that we could add, buttons and checkboxes, and all kinds of cool things that we can do inside of the designer tab. So let's close this out. And let's move on to the final stand in this particular video. This is not a new type of blueprint. It's still a actor class or whatever type of blueprint you base it on, but I wanted to illustrate why child blueprints are beneficial. So if I play in the editor here, we have a couple of different items that are kind of floating in the air. They're kind of your traditional pickups. As soon as I go over them, they kind of zoom in towards me and they print something in the upper left telling us what we've picked up. Let's take a look at how this was set up. We go to the blueprints folder and we have all of those assets here, but we have one called the parent. I'm going to go ahead and double click and open this up. Now, if I maximize this, this is just an actor class blueprint, similar to some of the other blueprints we've set up before, but all the logic is set up in here for what happens when we actually pick up the thing, how we get it to animate, etc. That's all done inside of this blueprint. Go to the viewport tab, we can see it has a mesh, has a trigger volume for us to enter, and a light. I'm going to close this out. We also have some other items here called child. If we open these up, script is a little bit different in here. But what's cool is that because we are basing this off of another class, we get to inherit all that functionality from the pickup blueprint. So all that functionality that's inside of here, we get all of this for free. We don't need to recreate that. This blueprint already knows what happens when we overlap that volume. It already knows how to animate the pickups. It already knows how to do all of that for us. We can come in here and script custom functionality that we want on a per pickup basis because it is a child. And in this case, all we're doing is saying, when we overlap it, go ahead and print something different for each one that we pick up. In this particular case, we pick up a cupcake. So that is a child class blueprint. And you can create child class blueprints by right-clicking on any blueprint and creating a child class from it. That will allow you to inherit all the functionality from the parent in your child blueprint, which is super handy. Depending on your background or interest, you may be working with all or just some of the blueprints we've covered. The key concept that they share, however, is that they all use node-based visual scripting to accomplish many of the same tasks that were once only available to programmers. So once you have the basics down, you should be able to experiment and create content within each type of blueprint.
Torn, because I like the series as far as what they're showing you, what you can do with it, but they're not showing, I think, enough of how to do it. I might not make it to the end,
Before you continue on your
guys.
journey in the world of blueprint visual scripting, I thought it best that we discuss some of the caveats that you should know about and consider along the way. So we know that blueprints are super powerful. Why don't we just do everything in Blueprint then? It's entirely possible, but there are some things to consider. One of those is that there is a cost associated with using Blueprint over C++ code. Now, I don't want you to get too concerned with this just yet, but do know that there are certain things that will impact your game or application's performance more than others if they are done in Blueprint. For example, doing a lot of complex math or heavy operations on every frame, you may want to move this to C++ code, as Blueprint runs in a virtual machine to translate your Blueprint nodes into native C++ code, and that's where the cost is incurred. There's also no easy way to say this. C++ code is going to be faster than Blueprint, as you do not need the virtual machine to translate your code. It's also going to be a little bit more powerful, as there are some elements of C++ code that are not currently exposed to Blueprint, meaning that there are some things that can only be done in C++. Having said that, there are many games and applications out there that have been created entirely in Blueprint. Another thing to know, Blueprint is...
If we look down here, it's Unreal Engine 4. Does anyone know how much of this has changed with Unreal 5? The talk that I was watching, I think they said it's something like 2 to 3 times faster to do everything in C++ versus Blueprints. Now, of course, that's like at the top end, 2 to 3 times. So if you're doing all your navigation and stuff like that, 2 to 3 times faster. Basic UI or running over the button type thing, it's probably the same speed. But I am interested to see if has this changed in Unreal Engine 5 or not. Be interesting to see.
Event-based, meaning some type of event starts the chain of other events or functionality to occur. That event could be the start of a game or application, when the player runs into a wall or picks up an item, for example. These are all events that could start or kick off your Blueprint script. And finally, I've saved this one for last, as this is the one that you will probably encounter the most when first starting to work with Blueprint, is that Blueprint uses references to access data and functionality between multiple blueprints. So if you're not careful, you could run into situations where you return an invalid reference, which would produce errors. There's also the possibility of running into circular dependency issues, which I'll come back to in a moment. But first, let's take a look at how references work. So here we are inside of the editor, and we're going to take a look at a couple of examples with regards to references inside of UE4. So let's look at 6.1 here. So we have a button here, and we have a couple lights up here. When we go over the button, we want to turn on one of these lights. So if we play in the editor, and we approach the button, and we go over it, nothing happens. None of the lights come on. In fact, if we escape, we're getting a nasty little warning down here at the bottom, which we can click on. If we click the show message log, it'll give us a little bit more information. And we're getting an error inside of our blueprint, so our blueprint is not set up correctly. If we use the message log to our advantage, we can diagnose what's going on with our blueprint and where the problem may be. So the error that we received is that we are accessing none, trying to read property reference to light. What's really cool about the message log here is that you can actually navigate to the source of the problem directly from the message log. So each of these links, we can click on them and jump directly to the problem. So at the very end here, it looks like we have a function called turn on light. If I click on this, it's actually going to open up the blueprint and take us right to that node. And the problem that we are seeing is that we are attempting to access a variable, but we're accessing a null variable. There's nothing there. We're not accessing anything. And we are trying to read property reference to light. So if we look at our graph here, looks like this is the function that's being called, and we are trying to read reference to light. So that's what it's targeting, but it's not getting any data that it can use. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to close this out, and we're going to look at the blueprint in the level here. So here's our button, and when we go over the trigger volume, we want to turn on one of these lights. If you look in the details panel, we have a property called reference to light, and you can see it's currently set to none. So this is probably where the error is. We need a reference to
Please allow drag and drop. Please allow drag and drop.
Even if we have one light and we want to turn on just one light, we still need a reference to the light that we want to turn on. So this is our problem. Now we could click the drop down and select from the list all the available lights. You can also use the eyedropper here to kind of pick one of the lights from the scene.
Okay.
I'm going to pick this one here. Now that we've assigned that reference, we know that when we enter the trigger volume, we want to turn on this particular light. So I play now and I walk over to the button, I turn it on, the light comes on, and it fixes the error that we had. Conversely, we could choose the other light if we wanted to as well, just like so, and it would turn on the other light. So that is references for this first stand. We're going to look at 6.2 here and talk about casting, because this is something else that you might run into when working with blueprints. Now suppose we had something else in our scene that was a physics object, and suppose we move this over on top of the button, something.
So I watched a video on casting and about how to get around that for the referencing, because apparently it's really slow. I'll have to see if I can find a link to that video again, because it was very informative.
Like this, and if we played, the ball turns on the light. The physics object actually hits the button and turns on the light. Now suppose we don't want that. Suppose we only want the player to actually go over the button to turn on the light. This is where we could use what we call casting. So I'm going to move that back over here for a second. And I set this blueprint up just a little bit differently. If we open this up and we right click on it and open the blueprint, what we're going to have in here is a little bit different script than the other one. As soon as we overlap the collision volume, we're now running a check to see what is it that overlapped the button. And we're doing that by taking the other actor, the other thing that overlapped the collision volume, and using what we call a cast. We're casting to see, is it the player that overlapped it? So another way to explain casting is you're checking to see if one object is another type of another object. So we're saying, is the other actor the player? If it is, then go ahead and turn on the light. If it's not, then we're going to print to the screen that we failed. So let's actually test this out. Let's make sure that we have assigned a reference to a light. So we'll turn on a left light here, like so. And if we take this ball over and drop it on top, we should get a failed. It doesn't turn on the light, which is what we would expect. However, if we move the ball out of the way and we play and we go over the light, or the button should turn on the light, as we'd expect, because it casted to and checked, is it the player that overlapped the button? And what we could do if we wanted the ball only to overlap the button and turn on the light, what we could do is we could right click, edit, and instead of casting to the player, we could check, if we look in the outliner here and we select the ball, we can see that this is a static mesh actor. That's what this object is that we have selected. What we could do is say, is the other actor cast to static mesh actor, like so. And if we connect that up, connect this up, now we're saying, is it a static mesh actor that overlapped? You just drag it off screen for a second. And if we move this on top, like so, now the ball can turn on the light. So that's what casting is. You're kind of throwing out a net, trying to see, is the other object that you are casting to of a particular type? And that's what we've done here to see if we want the player or another object to turn on this button. Another issue that you might run into is what we call circular dependencies. And these occur when you have two or more blueprints that depend upon one another. For example, we have two blueprints here on this slide deck here. They're not the fanciest blueprints, but we have blueprint A and blueprint B. So say, for example, blueprint A casts to blueprint B to access a variable stored inside of it. Blueprint B then casts back to blueprint A to maybe call a function or access a variable inside of it. When you load blueprint A, it begins to load all of the dependencies that it has. Since it depends on blueprint B, it also begins to load. As blueprint B loads, it then depends on blueprint A. So again, it loads blueprint A. So this vicious cycle continues. And because both blueprints depend on each other, this may significantly increase load times, or it may fail to load entirely, resulting in errors. Again, these things are things to consider, things to keep in mind when working with Blueprint, and Blueprint does a pretty good job of warning you when invalid references or circular dependencies are detected.
Like I said, that video I watched got around that. They got rid of the casting. So I'm not sure that's an Unreal 5 thing. Most of the videos I have been watching have been Unreal 5. Something to test.
Don't be alarmed, however, if you run into any of the caveats we've mentioned. Practice makes perfect with Blueprint. The more you use it, the more you'll be accustomed to the nuances of the system and feel more comfortable in your scripting ability. That will do it for this video. You should now have a high-level understanding of some of the things to watch out for when working with Blueprint. As with anything, do expect a little trial and error to start, and that's perfectly fine. You do have enough knowledge, however, to jump into the editor and start your hands-on work with Blueprint visual scripting. So have at it, explore, and return to this series if you ever need a refresher.
One more video left. Then we're going to test. Now, there are 2 other courses. I'm probably just going to do those on my own, because if they're... I thought there'd be a lot more interaction with this. I don't know. Maybe I'll redo some of this once I've gotten better at it and make a small series on it where you actually get to do it along with me instead of just going, okay, this is complete. Just look how it works. But let's get this last video done. Yeah.
So we've reached the end of the Blueprint Essential Concept series, and we've...
Now, his voice is familiar. Does anyone know who it is?
covered quite a number of topics related to Blueprint visual scripting in Unreal Engine 4. We talked about what blueprints are and the concepts behind them. We learned that Blueprint is a compiled visual scripting system completely embedded within UE4 that enables you to do a bit of programming, but just doing so in a more visual way. We talked about the different ways that you can create blueprints and took a tour of the UI, explaining all the bells and whistles of the system.
Oh, it's only a
minute. We also
minute.
spent some time working with components and talked about how they are the bits and pieces that make up our blueprints, that they can have functionality or properties attached to them that we can access or modify, or it could be used to create prefabs for us, like a building blueprint that has several components.
He used the word prefabs. Anyway, this is almost done. So if you have any questions, go ahead. Let's start queuing them up now. And I'll try to answer them as best as I can.
That construct the building, but doesn't actually have any scripted functionality within it. We explored the different types of blueprint graphs and what they are used for, mostly working with the event graph, which evaluates and updates at runtime, and the construction script, which evaluates during editing anytime the blueprint is changed, and can be used to create level editing tools to make your life a little bit easier. We touched on the different types of blueprints, the level blueprint versus class blueprint, the UMG widget blueprints for UI, and the benefits of using child blueprints. We also talked about some of the caveats to using blueprints, such as the cost of blueprints versus C++ code, and working with references and avoiding circular dependencies whenever we can. We hope that you enjoyed this series and have a better understanding of Blueprint visual scripting inside of Unreal Engine 4. Jump into the engine now and start experimenting with Blueprint as
I just wish it would have been more interactive. All right, our final test. Okay, so you have selected a few meshes in a scene and want to make them into a blueprint actor. What is the way to do it? Select the meshes, click blueprint on the toolbar, click convert. I believe that's it. Next, for your visualization, you want to allow all the doors to automatically, so for visualization, okay, all the doors to automatically open and close as the user walks to them. What type of blueprint? This is the class blueprint. So not a child, animation, blueprint actor. It's not a level. For your visualization, you want to allow all the doors to automatically open and close as the user walks to them. What type of blueprint would be best for this type of functionality? The class one, so blueprint actor, animation blueprint. That was like the mechanism thing, so it has to be that one. Okay, if you have reached the end of your assessment, okay, yeah. All right, 100%, woo! And we're done. We have some additional resources. Like I said, there are 2 more. I'm just gonna do those on my own because I got a funny feeling they're gonna be a lot like this one where we just sit down and we literally just watch what's going on. Not exactly exciting. I don't know if you'd like to see more Unreal 4 stuff on the channel. Let me know because I don't mind doing it. I want to get better at Unreal 4 anyway. I want to learn all the engines. Well, not all the engines, the main 3, like Godot, Unity. I've already had over a decade with Unity, so I feel like I got a really good grasp there. But Godot and Unreal, I could see going forward for maybe the next year, working a bit more with those. But yeah, if you want to see more of it on the channel, let me know down below. Anyway, for everyone that showed up, thanks for showing up. Always happy to see support for it. And everyone else, I hope you liked the recording that I'm going to leave up. I'll see everyone in the next one. Bye-bye.